Hi everybody, Lori here for Simon Says Stamp. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've got a fun project to share with you featuring products from the latest Season of Wonder release. I'm going to be featuring the gorgeous layered berry bird die, but first we're going to do a little something fun on the background. I pulled out the Wooden Planks embossing folder. When I saw this one, I couldn't wait to try it, and I'm going to emboss a panel of khaki or craft cardstock. I trimmed it down a little bit smaller than a card base to give a nice border around the edge. Run it through my die cutting machine. I have a Spellbinders Platinum, so you really have to figure out what sandwich works best for your particular die cutting machine. For the Spellbinders Platinum, I find I take out all the cutting plates and I just use the embossing folder and 2 metal shims, and that seems to work for me. But you know, day to day, depending on how thick and things go, it's kind of like pants. Day to day, sometimes you need your skinny pants, and sometimes you need your pants with the big waist. You just never know. Same with the embossing folders. Okay, now one thing that's really nice to do when you do an embossing folder is sometimes to add a little ink blending. It kind of accentuates some of that detail that gets embossed into the cardstock. So I'm using a little cappuccino ink. This is positively saturated ink, and I'm using one of the Simon Says Stamp blender brushes, the brown one, just giving it a once over around the perimeter, and it kind of accentuates that beautiful wood grain feel, and I just like the corners to be slightly darker. Okay, here's the star of the show, the layered berry bird die. It's a chubby little bird. I'm not sure what kind of bird. Maybe a robin. All I know is I like it. And there's a lot of detail. So first I have a piece of brown cardstock. I'm going to do a lot of die cutting for all the pieces in the die. Here's the branch. I die cut it in brown. And then I'm going to die cut it again in green. And the reason I'm doing that is because I wanted my leaves to be green even though the branch is brown. So I'm going to do a little surgery and just kind of carefully snip off the leaves, and then I'll glue those onto that brown branch. This is totally optional. You could customize these die cuts out the wazoo. You can do as much or as little. You know what I mean? Okay, so I'm doing a little liquid glue, popping on those leaves in green. You could also do a lot of variety of green, different shades of green, and whatnot. And then I'll add a little ink blending to shade this too. I think pretty much everything on this card gets a little ink blending love. Just little once over for fun. Okay, so once I get the green leaves glued onto the brown branch, I pulled out field ink, and this is where the small detail blender brushes by Simon Says Stamp come in really handy for small little areas. I just wanted to add a twinge of darker green, just to give it a little bit of dimension, little interest. I mean, you don't have to. You can leave it flat. I do that a lot. But today, since I put a lot of blending on my wood grain panel, I just felt like kind of just carrying that into every other aspect of the card. Okay, we're moving on to the bird. Now, the base of the bird, I'm doing a very light blue. I believe this is sea glass cardstock. A light blue will work, and I'll pop out the eye. I'll die cut that later and add a black eye. That made it sound like somebody punched the bird in the face and he's got a black eye. But you know what I mean, a black eyeball. Okay, and then there's all the different segments of the bird. The head, the tail, the neck. I'm going to do those all in different colors. I have some red for the top of the head, some red for the berries that are going to go on the branch, and then a darker kind of aqua for the tail. And then now for the chest area, I'm going to do a little orangey yellow cardstock. So there you have these big juicy berries hanging off that branch, and then this piece here is going to be for that chest area of the bird. Okay, now like I said, everything's getting zhuzhed. So I took some tape runner onto some scrap printer paper. Anytime I have notes or things that come in the mail, I save it and I use it for stuff like this, for blending on. Just scratch scrap paper to blend on. Okay, so I'm adhering all these pieces onto the scrap paper to hold it down. That way I don't end up blending on my fingers and all that stuff. So I like to hold it down. And then I'm going to take a darker shade for each die cut. So since the top of the head of the bird was red, I took out some cherry Again, using all positively saturated inks. If I forget to mention a supply, everything will be linked in the description box if you're watching on YouTube. Okay, little cherry on the berries and a little sherbet on the chest, the breast of the bird. And that wasn't like giving me enough va-va-va-voom, so I pulled out pucker. Sometimes you just got to feel the va-va-va-voom amount that you need, the vibrancy. And then for the tail of the bird, a little bit of tropic to zhuzh that one up. And then I'll bring that tropic over. Just give a little bit on the bird's body. Just a little bit. Why not? You know, sometimes when you get going, you don't know when to stop. And that's how it goes. How's everybody doing on this fine October season? It's a wet, rainy time here in central Illinois. It's kind of gloomy, kind of rainy today. I do like yesterday we had a beautiful sunshiny fall day. It was like 70 degrees and I was in heaven. I love a good 70 degree with a bright sun, fall, leaves turning. But then you got the gloom. You got the gloomy, and that just wants you want to take a nap. And Hank gets a little pouty. He wants to go out in the rain. Sometimes I just let him because I can't handle the pouting. Okay, so I'm gluing on all these pieces. You've got the breast of the bird and you've got the head. I feel like I'm National Geographic. The breast of the bird and the red head is hiding in the trees. And then you've got the tail. I only put a little bit of glue on the top. I'm going to leave that tail kind of lifted up. Give it a little air. Why not? Okay, then a little tiny drop of glue on the end of these 3 little skinny branches. And I'll adhere those bulbous berries. There you go. I was tempted to add some glossy accents to those berries. I forgot to do it, but that would be a fun addition. Okay, here's a piece of black, which I'm going to die cut for the eyeball. I'm not exactly sure what color birds' eyeballs are. I went with black. Put a little bit of score tape on the back of that die cut, and it held the eyeball intact. And look at how this bird is coming together. Now, one last thing. I just felt like the beak of the bird was not the right shade. So I took some brown, and I'm just going to die cut that beak part and trim it out real small and slip it right in. I didn't do any Googling, and I'm certainly not a bird expert, but I felt like, I don't know, I was going with the gut, and I gave it a brown beak. Maybe I should have gave it an orange beak or a black beak. Do you know, like, are you bird connoisseurs out there familiar with the shades of a bird's beak? Okay, little bit of woodsy, very, very dark brown ink. I added subtle shading to the ends of the branch and just to the tippy of the bird's beak. Okay, I'm going to pop up my wood grain panel on a white card base. You can see how I trimmed it smaller. I love that thick white border around the edge. Teeny little slivers behind that berry branch. Why? Because dimension is life. Pop up the bird right on the branch. This has given me life. Now for a sentiment, I wanted something simple. This is the Fresh Air Fall Flowers stamp set. I'm dying to stamp some of those blooms, but I loved the simple sentiments in it. So I'm going to stamp a hello. I just use VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and then I'll die cut it using the coordinating dies. I don't know about you, but I am in love with the fact that Simon Says Stamp is doing coordinating dies for all their sentiments. Love that so much because you can just nestle it. You just nestle it right in there. I even flicked the leaf over top. And then not that you needed to, but I felt like, why not? A few clear sequins here and there. Just because I like to do it. I like to just scatter them, the 3 different sizes. And there you have this very fall, woodsy, wooden planks, layered berry bird project. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for joining me. Make sure and check out the Season of Wonder release over at Simon Says Stamp. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.
Hi there, I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at SimonsSaysStamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, Be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.